fantasy move for a 5-0 team right
That's
there.
right. I'm staying on top of it.
God, I hope Ray didn't win. Adam Thielen's had a great year.
Put it here this time, hopefully. We tried to do it last time.
Now recording on my phone.
Sal commented on our Instagram post.
Do this to yourself.
But it's off the tracks. You know how it goes. It's gonna be a fun one tonight.
It's off the tracks. It's Jet. It's Rafe. We're back. Rafe,
Yes.
Thunder even the series up 2 games apiece with the Indiana Pacers, and it just didn't look like it was going to go that way.
Did not.
For the majority of this game. Looked like it for about 3.5 quarters. This is the Pacers game to lose, and that they did. Got a little bit of help, but you know, I listen. I taken a couple days here to really just digest this, cool off a little bit, maybe see if maybe I would be able to process this a little bit better, and I still can't.
Sure.
I still
Sure.
just can't. And I look at this, and the first thing that I ask myself when I just look at the box score, how in the hell does the road team in Game 4 of the NBA Finals shoot 38 free throws? That's just the one thing that I look at. You know, I've got a lot of opinions here, and I'm sure that you're not going to agree or like a lot of them. But Rafe, how are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. I feel like we were the only ones saying that this was going to be a series. First of all, I do want to get that out of the way. Everybody else kind of had Thunder in 5. Some people said Thunder in 4, which I knew definitely wasn't happening. It looks like we're going to get a Game 7, honestly, and we were kind of all over that. So, yeah, it feels great to be here. It feels great to be back.
You know, and I'll say this, you know, we don't play solitaire during the games.
True.
We actually sit here and
Yeah.
we do watch these games
Right.
a little bit. We give our not always unbiased opinions, but
It's hard right now, but yeah, we try.
you know, we're not going to clickbait you over here at OTT. We're certainly, I tell you what, man, and you know, this is another little maybe rant, but I turn on ESPN on what was that? Was that Pacers played so Thursday morning? Turn it on ESPN. Get up the back end of Get Up, and we're talking about Luka Doncic. Can he lead the Lakers to a championship? Which fed into, I think, a Giannis segment. It's like, you know, the ratings are low in this series because of the way that you're portraying it, the way that
Right.
it's being talked about, the lack of talking about it. There's no superstars in this series because you don't talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you don't talk about Jalen Williams, you don't talk about Tyrese Haliburton, Pascal Siakam. You don't watch them play. So that's the reason that the ratings are low. But this series, I mean, this has been one of the better final series that I've ever watched. I know I'm 21, so I haven't seen really anything past the 2010s, but this is one of the better final series I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's been tremendous. It's been tremendous basketball. I mean, there's been 4 games. There's been 3 fourth-quarter comebacks. I mean, outside of Game 2, I mean, Game 2 wasn't completely a blowout, but outside of Game 2, all these games have been close pretty much throughout the entire game. It's been great basketball to watch. I wish I could enjoy it without stressing out about literally every single possession. Can't do that, unfortunately. But yeah, it's been very good basketball. I was going to say something else too. Forgot. Go ahead. It'll come back to me.
Well, I was just going to ask you kind of, you know, we were watching this game. We watched about the first 2.5 quarters together. And then as we were leaving, Pacers, I believe, were up 8. I think it was like 60 to 52.
Something like that.
And I looked at you and I said, "Hey, long game. It's a long game." And you said back to me, you said, "No, this is over. They can't hit anything." I'm kind of listening to the game on the way home, And I literally, this is kind of where I'm like, man, Jet, what are you doing? I'm sitting there at the fourth quarter, and I think the Pacers were up 10. They're up 8 or 10. It's like 90 to 82 or something. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, man, I'm going to get a finals championship hat. I'm going to get a shirt. And why, it's like, why would you think that?
Yeah.
Why would you ever in your life think something like that? And that's about the time it started going downhill. We'll get into the extracurriculars, but let's talk about the game. What was your takeaway from the Thunder outside of those first 3 quarters? Let's forget about those. What was your takeaway from that fourth quarter where they outscored the Pacers by, what was it, 14 points to win by 7? Their backs against the wall. What did you take away?
I mean, it was really all Shea. I think Nembhard's done a tremendous job on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all series. They've made things very difficult for him, and the Thunder offense has kind of reverted to what it was in last year's postseason of, hey, Shai, bail us out. It hasn't been as bad as last year, but I've seen a lot of that, and I don't like that. The offense has gotten a lot of ISO heavy. Haven't seen that really all season. Don't like that either. But that's a credit to the Pacers defense and kind of what they're forcing the Thunder to play. A big change that I saw that I think one freed up Shai a lot and was able to get him to his spots was the guard-to-guard screens that they were able to do, mainly J-Dub screening for Shai, and they kind of got a switch out of that. I believe it was Nesmith that would end up guarding Shai throughout those last few possessions or the switches they were hunting, and Mathurin on a couple of them, I think, too. Not bad defenders, just, it's kind of like when the Pacers hunt Shai. Like, he's not a bad defender. It's just kind of pick your poison on the floor with those guys out there of, okay, he's the worst out there. Not that he's a bad defender, but this is our best option to attack, and that's kind of what they were doing. It got Shai to his spots. He was able to convert, and I think that kind of opened up the offense for them a little bit in that last quarter, and that's kind of where it turned. Offensively for me, they also turned up the defensive pressure, which, I mean, hasn't been their last 2 games. I don't know why. It's felt like the Pacers' defensive pressure has been a lot better than the Thunder's. But they were able to turn it up a little bit in the fourth. I think desperation came out a little bit. Obviously, they knew, you can't lose that game. That helped turn it a little bit as well. But I think those J-Dub screens for SGA tactically were kind of what changed it for the Thunder, and obviously the Pacers will probably have something for that coming out of the next game.
Yeah, I totally agree that the switch to forcing switches and getting Nembhard off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, allowing him to get to his spots, and, say what you will, and certainly I will. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's a great player. And he's one of those you just Carlisle talked about it a lot in these press conferences is, he's going to get his 30, 35. He's going to get it one way or another. From mid-range, from 3, from the free throw line, he's going to get his 30 to 35 a game. You're not going to stop it. Don't try and stop it. This was the first game all season that he didn't have a single assist. Am I right on that?
Yeah, you're right on that. That's part of the thing of, like, it's
very
very uncharacteristic from this series of just not a lot of ball movement from the Thunder, and you see the ball movement from the Pacers, and it's working well for them. I think that's why they're able to attack the very good Thunder defense so well, because they're constantly having them rotate, and doing that every game, all game, gets very difficult.
I credit it totally to the offensive adjustments that were made. I credit the defensive pressure. The Thunder, they got into their game a little bit. There were a lot of silly turnovers. They only had 13 turnovers in this game. And they had less than the Pacers. But that fourth quarter, they got to play their game. The game started getting slowed down. The whistle was being blown more. They were getting a lot of points where the clock was stopped. That to me was a turning point, is the Pacers got out of their flow and their rhythm. And not to say that I also think it was desperation as well, at knowing, hey, we go down 3-1, the series is probably over. Be tough to imagine the Pacers, who haven't lost back-to-back games since February or March, it's tough to imagine that team losing 3 straight. with one home game. So it was definitely a mix of desperation slash the Thunder getting into how they wanted to play. Um, this was the second game, I believe, right, in a row that the Thunder went to the double big lineup, or was this
Yeah,
the first game?
second game.
So, I mean, where were you with that? Hartenstein, played 21 minutes, 2 points. Is he more out there to kind of forget the box score, forget the stat sheet? Is he just out there to contain the Pacers?
I think there's pros and cons to it. I think, rebounding wise, it's something that the Thunder can go to not lose the rebounding battle, which they've done a lot. I think defensively, though, it kind of limits them a little bit because they have two bigs and the Pacers force you to rotate constantly. And it's just hard to do with two bigs out there. Defensively, their best lineups are with Chet at the 5, and got Caruso out there, Dort out there, and just your good defensive wings alongside that. So I think it was just an adjustment to. Case and Wallace hasn't played great this series, which has kind of been disappointing for the Thunder. So maybe, you had to make an adjustment and lessen his minutes a little bit until he can, get back to what he is if he can this series. I think that played a part into it. The rebounding played a part into it, but I would still like to just see single big minutes mostly. I'm fine with them starting that. And there's been a lot of talk about that too. I don't think, and we tried to talk about this before. We haven't had a chance to. I don't think them switching the lineup is the reason that they lost the games that they've lost. Game 1, they went 0 double big minutes. I thought that shouldn't have happened. Completely going away from it probably shouldn't have happened. I still think you should play it a little bit, but I think the majority of the minutes should still be relatively small, one center. That's their best lineups defensively and offensively. I think it's just another look to kind of force the Pacers to adjust to. And so it's not just the same thing constantly.
I think that, I think when you're playing this Pacers team, and most of the time you have to have someone guarding Turner, although he's been completely absent in this series. We'll get to that in a moment. But Pascal Siakam is such a, I don't even know how to, I was going to say hybrid, but he's such a different player to guard. He's not your
Yep.
traditional big man type. I mean, he's a true 4. He can get the ball, he can handle it, he can get downhill, he brings the ball up sometimes. So that's why I kind of maybe not liked isn't the right word, but I understood the going to the one big lineups in this scenario to have a quicker defender be able to guard him, Jalen Williams, or even if they had I think you were confident with everyone. I don't know how Hartenstein, how you really feel about him if he gets on Siakam, but I think this double big lineup. I mean, it was a credit to the Pacers in game 2 when they didn't run the double big lineup, but they couldn't get both feet in the paint. And maybe that's what Mark Dagenholtz is really trying to do here is to prevent the Pacers from getting out of the paint. And he did so. He did so. I don't know how many paint points they had, but they kept showing the graphic that the Thunder, especially early, had a lot more points in the paint than the Pacers. That ultimately came down to be one of the big deciding factors. And it's strange because I wasn't sure if it was going to, because early on, a lot of shots were falling for the Pacers, and it was starting to look like it was going to be one of those games where the Pacers are just red hot from beyond the arc, and they just turns out they weren't. Nesmith struggled; he couldn't hit anything. Halliburton hit that first 3, and he just went ice cold. Nembhard did hit a couple big shots. Siakam hit a couple, but just when they needed them, they weren't there. And the Thunder didn't shoot particularly well either. I said we didn't get it on the pod, but I said, after game 3, the Thunder aren't going to shoot that well again, and I can't imagine the Pacers shoot that bad again. I did not think the Thunder would shoot this bad from beyond the
So
arc.
bad.
Nothing was falling. They hit a couple in the fourth though. I think Shea hit
Shea
one.
hit one. There was another one. I don't remember who hit it because they had 3. They hit 3 3-pointers.
Right. I think it was Dort that hit it there in the fourth.
Dort hit one in the first. Shea
Okay,
hit
then it
one
was
in the fourth. I can't remember who the other one was, but yeah,
Crusoe.
only three.
Crusoe.
It may have been. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
Crusoe. Yeah.
Um. Uh, Staying on the Bigs topic, I do want to get into this Miles Turner stuff because you know, listen, I love Miles Turner as much as the next guy, if not more. I think he is a true pacer. I think that he should have his number retired. I think he should have a statue built. I think that Miles Turner is the embodiment of an Indiana Pacer. He stayed here for the last decade, through all of the good and the bad, through the Paul George trade, the Victor Oladipo trade, the Sabonis trade, everything. He was here. With that being said, you have waited 10 years to play in the NBA Finals to get to this point, and you have been absolutely nowhere to be found. The last two games have been terrible, but he hasn't really even played great in the last few games before that. 0 for 6 from 3, and a lot of those were open. Especially there late. He missed one late that might have even we might be talking about this game differently if that goes in because momentum would have come back. You'd have gotten the crowd back into it, but I don't think the Pacers hit a field goal in the last 5 minutes of the game. And so a lot of that is the way that, again, the Thunder slowed the game down. They got to play the way they wanted to play, but a lot of that was the Pacers were missing shots. Halliburton missed an open three. Gilgeous-Alexander had a really good defensive possession on Halliburton where he blocked him on a three. Turner missed a couple, at least one wide open three. Might have missed another one. They just weren't able to get anything to fall. The Thunder really nutted up there late. And again, that goes back to desperation and knowing that if this goes to 3-1, you're probably not winning. And you don't even want to see that through. Even if you do win it, you do not want to see that through. So that's what I'm really looking back on this game from a play standpoint, and I'm saying Aaron Nesmith went 2 of 9, but Miles Turner 3 of 10 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3. He had 2 rebounds in this game. I understand you've got a tough matchup with Hartenstein and with Chet Holmgren, but it's just not going to cut it. I don't think he's had more than 4 rebounds in a game during this whole entire series.
Yeah, and kind of to that point, it's felt like this entire series the Thunder have kind of been playing with fire with how wide open they've left him, and it's not just them leaving. I mean, the Pacers have done a good job of scheming it. The pick and pops and the pick and short rolls to the nail there. He's wide open on those almost every time. And Miles Turner is such a good player and he's such a good shooter. It feels like these are bound to start falling at some point. And we'll see if the Thunder adjust to it. It feels like they're not going to adjust to it until he starts knocking them down. I feel like, again, that's a dangerous game to play because he is getting wide open, like dangerously wide open every time off those screens, screen and pop, screen and short roll. It feels like they're about to go in, and that worries me in this series. And Pascal Siakam worries me a lot in this series. Obviously, we know what Halliburton is and what he's going to do. But it just feels like the Thunder have no real answer for Siakam. Felt like Caruso might be that, but he hasn't really been able to slow him down in the possessions he's gotten. So, the Thunder won game 4. It's 2-2, get home court back. But, and again, people are saying, oh, it's over now. But I don't feel that at all. I still feel, the Thunder made a good adjustment at the end of game 4. But offensively, still, I don't feel great the way they've played offensively. There's just a lot that could still go the Pacers' way because of how good they've played. They've already won in OKC once. They've won however many road games they already have this year in the playoffs. Still a long way to go. And there's a lot of things that the Pacers are doing well that still make me really, really nervous.
I kind of agree to a certain extent. And as a Pacer fan, I am totally looking at the series as, wow, you literally just blew your chance at an NBA Finals. Yeah, I totally blame I totally blame Scott Foster. I totally blame this officiating crew. I thought it was terrible. I thought it was absolutely brutal. I thought it was completely one-sided. I think I'm not gonna make. I'm just kind of I'm setting up a point here. I'm not gonna just complain about referees here. I mean, I am, but I think one side is allowed to play a little different than the other is. I think you can go and watch back. I mean, Shea, listen again. He's a great player. I think he gets away with a lot. I think he got away with push off late and travel. I think he gets away with push offs on a majority of his drives. Lou Dort, I think he gets away with more than anything, more than anyone. He absolutely. I mean, he fouled Halliburton late. This is back-to-back games where he's completely elbowed Tyrese Halliburton in the face, and nothing has happened. This is back-to-back games. And I totally am thinking about that, and it's killing me. But at the same time, I'm looking at this and I'm saying there were two things that you had to do to beat this Thunder team, who the metrics say is a top probably 7-8 team ever. There were two things you needed to do. Knock down your open threes, which the Thunder give a lot of them up, and win the turnover battle. 30% from three, 2 more turnovers than the Thunder, and you lose by 7, and a fourth quarter collapse. So yeah, I sit here and I'm really upset, frustrated with how this game particularly was officiated with 71 free throws. That's 1.5 free throws per minute. But I'm also sitting here and I'm saying you got to shoot the ball better, and you can't turn the ball over that much.
Yeah. As far as out of the officiating thing, now that I know I'm on the other side of it, of course. With the push-offs, I understand. The thing with that, though, is any player could do that. Shea does it the most, for sure. That is part of his game. But throughout the course of an NBA season, the postseason, that's never called for anybody. So, and again, yeah, Shea does it the most, and you could argue that creates a bit of an unfair advantage, I suppose. But, I mean, that happens all the time in NBA games, and it's not called. You know, I won't sit here and say that the Thunder didn't benefit from the officiating. I thought they did, especially in the first half. Second half, I thought it was a lot closer anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do agree with that.
And the foul numbers were probably construed a little bit too because of the end of the game, and you know there was some away from the play fouls that one of them. I mean, he had his arm. You know, you could argue maybe don't call that one. One of them, he straight up tackled Shea. I don't know if that one was.
On which one?
The one, it was after a free throw, I think, and they were taking it out from under the basket, and Mathurin like ran over Shea.
Oh, no. Mathurin, listen, I didn't even get to Mathurin. What a terrible, that's got to be the worst 60 seconds in the history of basketball.
Yeah.
And like, I still think the Thunder probably would have won, but you missed 3 of your 4 free throws and gave them 2 extra, and you lose by 7. I mean, continue. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, the numbers were construed a little bit because of the end of the game stuff. But yeah, I mean, I won't sit here and say that, you know, that the officiating was completely down the middle or that the Thunder didn't benefit from it, especially first half wise. But I think, and you've stated it clearly, I think the Pacers still had a good chance of winning that game, and there were some things that they could have done to win that game as well. But you know, here we are, 2-2. We have a series, a very good series. It just sucks that, you know, officiating is really the focal point of the game afterwards because it was a pretty good game. And again, I understand why it was. But yeah.
Well, what did I say before? Why? Listen, man, Scott Foster, it just happens every time. Every time he officiates a game, he's trending on Twitter. You know, and he missed 2. Why is he even officiating the finals? He literally missed 2 months of the season. You just shouldn't. All right. Moving on. Game 5 in Oklahoma City. Kind of feels like this is well, it doesn't feel like this is now the Thunder series to lose. They're 9.5-point favorites. Which by the way, they were 6.5-point favorites in Game 4. Somehow
5.5 in Game 3.
Somehow,
I don't know.
Uh, yeah. But 9.5 point favorites here, minus 425 to win the game. I think it's going to be hard for Indiana. They barely took a road game in game one. This is the toughest place that Indiana's had to play all season. It's loud for 4 quarters, and with a team like the Thunder, and they did it a couple times. They had a few 7-0 run, 9-0 runs in game four, but they never really had that big one. They usually go on a really big run, and when that happens at home, I guess for the Thunder, no game is ever over, and you could be up 10, up 11, and 13-2 run, we're tied. And then the crowd's back in it. So it's going to be really tough for me to see the Pacers taking another road game here. But if they were to, what are some of the keys for them to do so?
Well, I think one, you haven't seen any of those runs because the Pacers can do that themselves. And anytime in game one, I think that was a big reason that the Pacers were able to stay in the game and win that game, is anytime the Thunder kind of went on a little run there, Pacers out of a timeout or just within the flow of the game go on a run themselves and keep it there at 10, 8, 7, just within distance for them to win that game. Both of these teams are capable of going on 10-0 runs at any moment in the game. Obviously, they can go on bigger runs as well. But again, I think that's why it's been such a good series, such good games, because of how similar these teams are and how very good these teams are. I think they found something though in these last two games, and the Thunder haven't found an adjustment yet. We'll see if they do. But them picking up high on the ball screens and forcing Shea to either into tough shots or get rid of the ball and make the other guys try and do it, that they have to stick with that. Offensively, I mean, Halliburton get to the paint, making the bigs make a decision, making the defense make decisions on whether to come down and help or stay home on shooters. And they're going to get open shots, as you said, hit the open shots. I think this game is very winnable for the Pacers for sure, mainly because of the defense and the defense they've deployed the last two games and how aggressive they've been. It's really given the Thunder fits. Again, we'll see if the Thunder can have an adjustment to it, but they've forced them into uncharacteristic turnovers. Some of them were unforced, but there was a lot of forced turnovers that the Pacers anticipated well and got steals on because of their defensive pressure, and forcing the other guys for the Thunder to make shots, and to do it without Shea is the key defensively. They've done a great job of that. The Thunder were able to adjust a little bit in game four. It wasn't enough. I think, the Pacers will have an adjustment to that. So we'll see. It's the finals, and this is what playoff series are. It's adjustments to adjustments to adjustments. But I think the Pacers have really found something defensively, and until the Thunder can find a consistent answer to that, they got to stick with that.
I want to go back to that Halliburton point you made of getting in the paint, he was doing that in game four. He,
Yeah.
he was he was shooting the floater, and you saw how much it opened up the offense for the Pacers. They were able to play in the half court a little bit more because Halliburton was getting past the first defender, and now you've got Hartenstein or Chet plus the weak side that's got to make a decision of, are we going to guard this floater, or is he going to kick it out for three? And that's what you're going to have to do. That's what that's what makes this offense run, is Tyrese Halliburton. And the Pacers are due for a really good shooting game. I don't think that the Pacers have played their best game yet in this series. I think they played really good in game three, but I think they can play even better. And you're gonna have to do it on the road. If you have been saving it, everything you've got, it's got to come here in these last three games. Because like you said earlier, it kind of looks like this might go to 7. It's gonna be. I mean, they definitely can lose at home, but I don't know if the Pacers are gonna lose another home game. But at that same point, don't know if the Thunder are gonna lose another home game. Another to that Halliburton point. If that's what Halliburton's doing, you've got to knock down your open shots, and the Pacers really, they didn't do that in the second half. They started out well early. The corner threes were starting to fall. I think they started like 4-7 from three in the corner. And that's what you're going to have to have. You're going to have Neesmith knocking down shots. You're going to have Turner knocking down shots. Siakam's going to continue to knock down shots. Nembhard is going to need to continue to give 12, 15, 18 points per game. And the bench, the bench was the story in game 3. And that's going to have to continue to be a part of it here in game 5, especially as we go deeper in the series. But I'm really looking at Miles Turner in this game. Again, you've waited a decade to play here in the NBA Finals. Let's see it. Empty the tank here, knock down your shots, play a little defense, and go grab a couple rebounds if you can. Moving on here, what they're calling, maybe it's because it's the first trade. It's the first trade of the offseason. So it's the blockbuster trade. The Orlando Magic trade Cole Anthony, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and 4 first-round picks, including the number 16 pick in this year's 2025 NBA draft, for Desmond Bane, who's still just 26 years old. I forget the Richmond, Indiana native is still relatively young. This past year, he averaged 19.2 points per game. He had 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He shot 39% from 3. It'll be a nice addition. The Magic, listen, it kind of feels like they're trying to make moves to win. I think the East is pretty wide open as well. Doesn't look like Giannis is going to get dealt, but you've still got Tatum out. Don't know what the Celtics are going to do. The Pacers, I mean, they'll probably be the favorite going into next season out of the East. The Cavaliers, got a lot of question marks there. And then after that, I mean, the Knicks, they don't even have a coach yet. So there's no telling what's going to happen there. So a lot of teams, I think, are going to make moves like this, especially in the East. But the Magic are still going to have to make moves. I'd like to see them get another ball handler and definitely a big man. So, Rafe, kind of what are you taking here in the early part? This trade happened a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, right
How are
away.
you digesting?
Yeah, right away.
Sorry.
I do like it for Orlando. They've needed offense. They needed another guy that can kind of create alongside Paulo. And Desmond Bane can be that guy. He had a couple big games against the Thunder in the postseason, in that first round. I do agree, though. I do think Orlando still needs a little bit more. Right now, as it stands, I think they could very easily compete for a top 4 seed in the East. Especially with Tatum out, and we'll see what some of these other teams do that kind of have big question marks heading to this offseason. Do I think it makes them an East contender? Not necessarily. I don't think they're completely there yet, but this is a good first step in the right direction. But initially, I'm very intrigued with Memphis now. This makes me really want to keep an eye on Memphis, see what they do, because it feels like they can go either way. It feels like they can go full rebuild and try again, which, I mean, we can talk about Ja Morant and kind of what we feel there. I feel like that's probably the best option. Or, I think there's a scenario where they see, again, Scottie Pippen Jr., who had some nice games against the Thunder in that first round. Maybe they see him and say, you know what, he can be our third option. Let's move on from Bane. Let's get some pieces, but more importantly, let's get some draft picks and try to keep building around our 3 that we have now, or I guess 2 with Ja Morant and Triple J. So I could see them going either way. I think they should probably go rebuild, but I'm very interested to see what Memphis does now.
I'm going to disagree with you on the rebuild part because, listen, people can laugh at the Ja Morant quote of "we had him figured out," because before Ja went down with an injury, who you'll never guess, anyways, they were up 22.
Yeah, they're up 20 in that
At
game
that point?
3. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying that the Memphis Grizzlies were by any means going to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. They probably would have taken a game. Maybe they would have gotten lucky and it went to 6. but it kind of looked like, hey, let's go make a move here. Well, let's go get a guy or two and just see what we can do next season. Um, they'll have now Ja Morant, Kentavious Caldwell Pope, Santi Aldama, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey rotation starting lineup is what it's kind of looking like here. Not a lot of depth on this team, so it feels like they're gonna go rebuild here, but I don't know if they should. It's definitely interesting. I'll be curious to see how they go about it. It feels like Jaren Jackson Jr. would definitely be traded. Do you think they would also trade Ja?
I mean, I don't think they ever trade Ja. In my eyes, I think you trade Ja before you trade Jaren Jackson Jr. That's just my opinion. Because I just think the style of Ja, look, Ja Morant's a great player, but he doesn't shoot the three very well. And that's a thing that kind of killed him. You know, when you get into a postseason and you've got teams scheming specifically for you every game, you know, the Thunder went under every screen against Ja Morant. And it was hard for him to get to what he wants to do, get downhill, get to the rim. He was still able to at times because, you know, he's a great player and he can get to the rim usually at will. But whenever you got a team loading up on that and expecting that and ready for that and going under screens and you're not really making them pay because you can't hit the outside shot, like that's tough for your number one option. Not saying he can't ever get there. And who knows, maybe he comes out next year and he shoots a lot better from three. You know, if he can develop that, I think then absolutely this guy is a guy that can be the number one option on a championship team. But as it stands right now, and the injuries have been an issue, and, you know, we can talk about how available he's been. And again, I think that's because of his play style. You know, we think about Derrick Rose and kind of when he went down, but that was his play style. You know, is getting to the rim and finishing amongst the big guys and taking a lot of hits and taking a lot of falls. So, you know, I don't know. I don't think they trade Ja Morant because of how much he means to the team, how much he means to the fans, how much he means to, I mean, they all love him in Memphis and for good reason. But in my opinion, I think they should. I think that's see what you can get. Maybe build around Triple J or just go full rebuild and try and find a new star either through the draft or maybe sign one. But I don't know. I haven't really been a Ja Morant believer. I was a big fan of him coming out of college, but you got to be able to shoot in today's game, especially if you want to be the number one. And I don't know. Maybe he develops it, but I don't know. Right now, I just not a big Ja believer.
I am there with you. I definitely think that at this point in time, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a better player, um, better shooter, and I think that with Ja, you also again, like you said, you have to look at the injury and kind of how many games are you going to be able to get out of Ja Morant. He's missed at least 15 games in every season that he's played, and he hasn't played. I mean, his rookie year was the most games that he's played in his career, 67. So I think that is definitely worth talking about. Um, but yeah, I think that do you think if you trade one, you got to trade the other and just full tear it down, or maybe just trade one, take a step back, look at your draft picks, look at all maybe the cap room you've got cleared up. You can go and get a few guys. What does that look like?
Um, I mean, I'm trying to look at ages here on the roster because timeline wise, I mean, I think you don't have to trade the other if you trade one. You've got some young guys that play well. But at the same time, you know, are you going to win with just one of those guys on that roster? Probably not. So if you're going to go with one, I would say go ahead and trade the other as well. But again, I could see them just sticking, like you said, I could see them just sticking here and saying, you know what, we've got some good pieces, we've got some good draft picks now potentially. You got the 16th this year. We'll see. Orlando presumably will be good for the next couple of years, so some of those may be later first in the coming years. But you've got a couple first-round draft picks and some drafts coming up, and you can continue to add to the roster. So I think they should go rebuild, but I wouldn't be surprised if they stick, maybe make a couple more moves, but try and compete again this year.
Just looking at CBS here, um, just at around the 16th pick here, what they've got in their mock draft, they've got Nick Clifford originally going to the Magic, but you'll have guys there. Danny Wolf could be good. Noah Nsengu could be good. Um, him falling that far would be pretty crazy, actually. Thomas Sorber you could get if you want to get a backup big. Will Riley. So there will be guys there at the 16th pick that I think could be impacts year one off the bench. I don't think you're going to get a starter there. I can't imagine you're going to get anyone that's going to be better than Santi Aldama, or even Contavious Caldwell Pope. So I think really you're looking there to probably get a backup guard, or even maybe take a Will Riley there. You trade back. I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways that the Grizzlies can go here. I think there's a lot more as far as who won the trade. We get stuck on that, but if you want to have that conversation, I think there's a lot more places that the Grizzlies can go from this than the Magic. But the thing with that is, and I was talking about this morning, is it was either stay where you're at, be a play-in team every year, probably never really get over that hump, or try and make a move. And this is them trying to make a move, so I'm not going to hate on it. I'm not, maybe it comes back to bite them, but I don't really think first round picks are necessarily all that valuable to playoff teams, anyways, unless you're one guy away, or two guys away. I'm fine with it. So I am curious to see how this plays out. I would say right now, if I had to pick a winner or loser, I would say that the Grizzlies maybe won this trade, but I think that depends on how they go off of this. Are they blowing it up, or are they going to try and add and be maybe a top 4 or 5 seed next season?
Yeah, I think there's so many layers to this. First of all, I would be remiss to say also the Grizzlies in that first round series against the Thunder, they were hurt too. They were missing 2 guys in that playoff series. So again, you get healthy, could be a completely different team. As far as the trade goes, I agree. I think, Orlando, where you're at right now, I think it's a lot of first round picks, sure. And Brian Windhorst said on ESPN today too, part of that was them getting off the KCP contract. It was such a big contract. Like if they just wanted to offload him, they were probably gonna have to give up first rounds just to do that anyway. So part of that was getting rid of KCP in that trade. Part of it was getting Desmond Bane. So it's a lot of first round picks, face value. But if you're expecting to be good, if you're expecting to be competing, and you are good, they'll end up being late first round picks. I like the move. I think it's a good step. It's a good first step in the direction towards contending. I don't think they're there yet, but it's a good first step. But yeah, as far as who won the trade, who knows? Like you said, it's always, you can always come back to these and say different things throughout different times. As it stands right now, I'll go Orlando. I'll be different. I'll go Orlando just because I think this move, I really like Desmond Bane. I think this move, like I said, is them trending where they need to go.
Right. I don't think that anyone necessarily loses this trade at this moment in time.
Yeah.
That remains to be seen. Now, real blockbuster trades that we're expecting to happen pretty quick here, within the next week is what I was reading. Kevin Durant. I saw, was that this morning or was this last night? I believe it was last night. His 3 preferred teams being Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs, and Miami Heat.
Yep.
So no Minnesota, which was apparently picking up steam yesterday. I don't know if this really matters, to be honest with you. These preferred teams, in my mind, what does Phoenix owe it to Kevin Durant to take into account? Oh, you want to go here? Okay. I think Phoenix is in a position to take the best deal that they're offered.
Yeah, they could definitely do that. I think, though, the fact that, the report came out that they were working with Kevin Durant's agent and kind of the wording of everything, it seems like they're going to work with him. Maybe they don't, maybe, there may be a scenario where it seems like it's, hey, here's my top 3 teams. You can take the best deal out of whoever gives you the best deal of these 3 teams. It was probably kind of a compromise between the two of, any of these teams, I'm good. You know, you guys can pick the best deal out of these selected teams. It'll probably be something like that. You know, I can understand why you would feel that way if you're Phoenix. You know, you give up a lot to get KD here. I wouldn't say it's Kevin Durant's fault that all this went down the way it did. Same way, you know, say what you will about Kevin Durant, and you know, I've got opinions on it certainly because of how he left, you know, OKC. But you know, he wins in Golden State, goes to Brooklyn. Maybe you can blame him for wanting to be teammates with Kyrie and James Harden. But I mean, I don't think the way it went down in Brooklyn was really his fault. And I don't really think the way it went down in Phoenix is necessarily all his fault either. Now he's a star, so he's going to get the blame, and that's just the way it goes. So you know, I can understand where if you're Phoenix, you'd want to be that way, but it seems like it's kind of a collaborative effort here. Now the more fun question is what can you get from these three teams and who has the best offer? I think it's probably Houston, maybe San Antonio, but it just depends on what they're willing to move off of. It's probably San Antonio, but there may be guys that they're not willing to move off of.
Well, with that point, and that's why I see this is kind of one of my points of Phoenix is going to take this best deal is Miami can't offer. They have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. There is, if I am Phoenix right now, and I understand that the market for Kevin Durant is not as great as what maybe Phoenix thinks, just based on what the league and what offers they're getting. But you're gonna, you're gonna have to move off of Khalil Ware. You're probably gonna have to move off Nikola Jovic. Tyler Hero would be brought up. You're not gonna want to move him. You're not gonna want to move Bam. You don't have the draft capital to do it. So I'm not even considering a Kevin Durant to Miami trade. I think it'll be San Antonio. The thing with San Antonio and Houston is both of these trades kind of switch things, and I guess it becomes a conversation of, well, Kevin Durant. It's Kevin Durant. How many chances are you going to get a guy like Kevin Durant on your roster?
Right.
How many chances are you going to get to pair Kevin Durant with Victor Wembanyama? I believe we talked about this with okay, San Antonio for Giannis. What would they have to give up? What would a deal like that look like? I think it would look not as much, but it would look kind of similar. You're probably going to have to move Jeremy Sohan, who apparently posted an Instagram story in Phoenix either yesterday or today. I think it was yesterday. That's interesting.
That's fun.
I think a guy like Stephon Castle, won Rookie of the Year, he's getting brought up. Devin Vassell, it feels like he would probably be dealt. So you're gonna have to move some young pieces that are really contributing to this. But I mean, we could talk about Houston in a minute here, but I mean, you can have De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Durant, Victor Wembanyama. I mean, I know we're maybe moving away from the big three era, but that's a pretty good big three.
Yeah, it's a pretty good big three, and you know, you still got some decent pieces, and you've got two lottery picks this year. So now probably one of those, if not both, goes in that trade. But yeah, that's the thing with San Antonio is, you know, obviously you don't want to move Stephon Castle, but you also have De'Aaron Fox on the roster already. Like you could if you really wanted to. I think it comes down to, you know, is giving up Stephon Castle worth, I mean, how many years of Kevin Durant do you think you give? You know, two maybe. You know, is that worth that? Is that a guaranteed championship? Is that a guaranteed championship in the West? Is that a guaranteed finals appearance in the West? You know, it's a lot of things where it's like, okay, maybe it's not worth it. And that's why I think, you know, San Antonio can definitely give the best offer, but are they willing to give the best offer? And I don't know if necessarily they are. Now, can the GM give an offer that is slightly below that and get away with it and still put together something a little bit better than maybe Houston can, possibly? But yeah, it's very interesting, very, very interesting where this all will fall. Miami Heat being a preferred destination is a little interesting to me because, like you said, one, they don't have much to give, but even if Kevin Durant is there, like, I know the East is weaker.
Yeah.
I know the East is weaker, and maybe that's why that's a preferred destination, but I mean, I don't think anybody's looking at Miami with Kevin Durant saying, watch out for these guys. Like now, Houston and San Antonio, I think you have a better case. But again, you're in the West. The West is tough. It feels like everybody's loading up in the West. So I guess it makes sense to have an East team on there. But I think Miami's just kind of like they're there, but I don't know if they're a real option.
For Houston, you would think. I mean, you'd probably have to give up Amon Thompson.
Yeah,
You'd have to give up one of
him or Jalen
you'd
Green.
right. Maybe. What do you think that he would have to also give up one of like a Alperen Sengun or Jabari Smith, or do you think one of those 4 players is enough?
Um, I think 2 of those 4 are going to go. I think
Where I'm at.
Jalen Green is a guy you're okay getting rid of. I know he has high upside, but I mean, there's times that Houston takes him off in the fourth quarter, for offensive purposes, and it's like, wow, okay. Now the thing with Jalen Green is he can't be traded until July 1st. Now I know that's not that far away, but so if he's involved in the deal, we'll have to wait for a little bit on this. I think Jabari Smith is another guy where it's like, high upside, but maybe hasn't been everything that we've wanted him to be. And you could be okay giving that up, especially if you're getting Kevin Durant back. Restricted free agent next year, 1 year left on the deal. So I think Houston is better positioned to put a good deal together because they probably have more young talent that they're willing to get rid of. Now, at the same time, Houston's willing to get rid of them. Probably not a good sign for what the talent is. But, I think they can get rid of 2 young guys along with some picks. That's pretty enticing for Phoenix.
Do you think them extending Steven Adams yesterday, do you think that is a sign towards maybe Sengun's getting dealt here in a trade, or do you just think that's am
Potentially,
I
yeah.
thinking too hard on this?
Potentially, I like Şengün a lot.
Yeah.
I think he's still young. He's 23. There's a lot of time for him to expand his game. I think he does need to expand his game a little bit, offensively wise. But yeah, I mean that's a potential. I don't know if Steven Adams in today's game is a starter that you want to throw out there. I love Steven Adams. Always love Steven Adams. But his game, he's old school center, very post centric. Doesn't shoot mid ranges. Doesn't shoot 3-pointers. I think he's just a very good backup big. He's a very good veteran presence on that team, and I don't know, because you look at that Warrior series in the postseason, and he was a factor. They went big, and it kind of caused problems for Golden State, but it wasn't anything that obviously deterred them. They still won the series. I think it's just he's a good backup center, and they wanted him on the roster, veteran presence. I don't think it really signifies anything for Şengün's long-term future there. I think they probably prefer to keep Şengün over the other. I would say Thompson's number 1 on the list for them of who they want to keep, then Şengün, then the other 2 are kind of put them wherever you want. But it may be a case where they really want Kevin Durant and nothing's budging, and maybe they have to give up Şengün late in negotiations to get the deal done. But I don't know. I wouldn't look too much into the Steven Adams extension.
Right. So who? One more question here. We'll get out of here. Who would benefit the most from this trade? Obviously, I know that it depends on who's given up. There's still a lot to be done here, and not a lot has come out about really offers that have been made. I was reading that Jaden McDaniels for Minnesota was kind of untouchable in this Kevin Durant deal, is what I was reading. But other than that, I mean, we haven't really seen a whole lot. Who benefits the most inserting Kevin Durant on their team, expecting that a couple of these pieces on this team are traded?
Well, first of all, with Minnesota, I don't think they're really in the running, but I would stay away. I would completely stay away. It feels very similar to when Phoenix traded for Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
They were just in the Western Conference Finals. I feel like to get KD, you have to give up too much of what got you there. I would just completely stay away if I was Minnesota. I think the team that benefits the most is Houston because, I mean, they were the 2 seed this past year. You saw kind of offensively wasn't a whole lot there for Houston kind of late in games. Um, Depending on a lot of young guys to create, I think they could use some offensive creation within their offense alongside possibly a Şengün. Fred VanVleet was kind of your guy that you were depending on to kind of create and be the offensive guy. Um, Sometimes it was Jabari Smith Jr. You know, he's kind of inconsistent. We've already talked about Jalen Green. So I think Houston stands to benefit the most because they need a guy like that. I think San Antonio is well set up. Whether they get Kevin Durant or not, they're going to be a very good team next year with hopefully a full season of Wembanyama healthy. Stephon Castle, obviously we saw what he did last year. Now you had the De'Aaron Fox subject to that. I think San Antonio is going to be very good next year. I mean, I guess you could throw Miami in there. They could obviously use a Kevin Durant, but I don't, like I said, I don't think that moves the needle a whole lot. So I would say Houston.
No, I think I agree with you on Houston, just because I think there's more wiggle room. I mean, you could even deal a Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd, and maybe that gets you out of giving up another one of these
Yeah.
key pieces on your team. So I think there's more wiggle room. And even if they do have to give up two pieces, let's say they give up, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, you're still fine. I think you slide Thompson to the 2, go Brooks to the 3, Durant to the 4, and you're still fine. You still got, I mean, you'd still have 8 guys that can consistently play. Go pick up a guy or two in free agency, and you're going to be just fine. So I think if Houston gets Kevin Durant, I mean, I don't know if I wouldn't say they're a finals favorite, but there's definitely more of a microscope on them, and you're definitely looking at Houston in a bit of a different light.
Yeah, it's going to be. Sorry, I'm just playing with the trade machine here, trying to get one done.
Right.
I'm sure I've done this before, but yeah, got to make the money work. But we'll see. I think it's Houston though.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be San Antonio, but I think Houston would benefit more. I do think San Antonio is going to end up getting him. But I'm excited for it. Game 5. Well, this is going out. It's Game 5 tonight. Then, I guess when you're watching this, I guess we got to give our picks here. Who are you taking here? Game 5.
God, I hate doing this. Oh boy, I'm gonna go. I think it's another close game. I'm banking on Oklahoma City finding an adjustment to the Pacers defense and kind of playing a little bit more to themselves at home. So I think the Thunder take it in a close game.
I'm gonna take, but now listen. I think you can look at this game. Okay? So I'll ask you this: do you think the Pacers have a better game or a better chance of taking uh, Game 5 on the road or Game 7 on the road?
Man, I would say this game, Game 5, because there may be. I don't want to say there's going to be a whole lot, but there may be a little bit of relaxation from OKC. Maybe not as much desperation as maybe there will be in a Game 7. Now, at the same time, obviously, Indiana will be as well in a Game 7. But I would say Game 5 is probably a bit more winnable than Game 7. I think they can win either game, though.
I think Game 5 is more winnable, just because, and the Pacers are certainly fatigued and tired too, but you look at Game 3, a lot of hands-on knees for the Thunder, and then Game 4, I mean, how much did that really take out of the Thunder to go back and get there? Chet, I mean, how's he doing? I mean, he looked like he was dealing with some injuries,
Yeah.
but he was getting a little bumped.
There's video, the Thunder fans are always at the airport anytime they come home from a road trip in the postseason. There's the video, there was no boot, no limp, so hopefully everything's good there. I'm sure he's sore. I'm sure J-Dub's sore from the fall he took late in the game or whatever that was. Fell right on his back.
It took a couple falls.
Yeah, so probably, I mean, they're probably banged up, but it didn't seem like anything that will keep them out anyway.
Right. I do think the Thunder are going to win this, but I guess my point that I made was, if I'm going to say, Pacers in 7, like I said at the beginning of the season or the beginning of the series, it was like the Pacers got to win this one. You know what? I'm gonna take the Thunder to win. I say they win by 5 probably. Maybe I don't know. Pacers they haven't shown me that they can win this series. It's tough to beat this team 4 times. Certainly tough to beat them 5 times. I really felt like they beat them for the most part in game 4 and they blew it. So you just can't do that. And I think that cost them the series. So I am going to take the Thunder here in game 5, but kind of looking like this is going to go to 7, which is exciting, which is fun and great for the game. Great for the game. I'll be curious to see tomorrow what Stephen A. Smith says about not only game 4, not only what's going to happen at game 5, but the Dumb and Dumber costume that was courtside, the solitaire fiasco.
Dude, it was during a timeout. He's playing during a timeout. Doesn't count.
I don't think it
That's what
was.
that's what it said.
Video. Okay.
Yeah, there's video that says otherwise, but I'm just quoting Stephen A. Smith here.
I'll be curious. Is that all? Are we good? We've covered it all here.
That is everything, I think.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe. Listen, we're gonna get just because the finals is coming to the end, the NBA season's coming to an end. OTT's not going anywhere, baby.
Not at all.
Lock in, hit the subscribe button, like the video, turn post notifications on. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's Off the Tracks. Peace.